Good morning. Good morning, Namaskar. Good morning, Namaskar. This is Engineer Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India on this day, November 10, 2021, Wednesday, and around 4 o'clock in the morning. Civil field engineering in combination of Hindi and English, life engineers, professional engineer certification, IPE, International Professional Engineer certification, and then other one, chartered engineer according to Royal Charter of II 1935 and fellow membership of Institution of Engineers India, chartered body, and here is quality file. What do you have to say about this? That's important. Title is Civil Field Engineering, Engineers Quality and AnnexSL, Contracts, Communication, Construction, etc. All that's as usual. Nothing new in that. And I keep this bench closed so that quality can move in. A modified definition now. क्वालिटी, SHE, इकोनॉमिक्स, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स, प्रोडक्ट्स, गुणवत्ता बिना सब कर्म व्यवहार, quality in construction, quality in production, quality in manufacturing, quality in services, quality in education, quality in society and individual, quality in communication and coordination, quality required everywhere and in every activity in life. And in engineering. चार Quality can never be and must not be compromised by engineers and public. गुणवत्ता के साथ मजाक नहीं. Now, in this context about quality and safety, how to use quality, how to get quality, it's a major question mark, considerable question mark. We should know, means we had in past quality system without system, quality working without system, but now we have quality system in force everywhere, but quality is not coming up. We are not able to achieve quality in many parts of the world. It's not only in our country, I can say, Bharat, India, but also in many other parts of the world. Even you can say in USA, I don't think quality is very good. It's not criticism, but it's a fact of life. Just by name of country, we cannot say that's a quality production country. No. किसी देश के नाम के हिसाब से हम नहीं कह सकते कि क्वालिटी वहाँ मिलेगी, गुणवत्ता वहाँ मिलेगी. ना ही किसी कंट्री के नाम से, ना ही किसी रेपुटेशन के नाम से हम ये कह सकते हैं कि वहाँ क्वालिटी मिलेगी, जब तक कि हम प्रोडक्ट को नहीं अनुभव कर रहे थे. चाहे वो दुनिया का, विश्व का कोई भी, या दुनिया की कोई भी बड़ी से बड़ी कंपनी क्यों ना हो, मैन्युफैक्चरर क्यों ना हो, चाहे वो HP हो, चाहे वो माइक्रोटेक हो, या कोई भी बड़ी से बड़ी कंपनी दुनिया की किसी भी फील्ड में हो, जब तक हम उसका अनुभव नहीं कर लेते कि इसका प्रोडक्ट कैसा है, हम ये नहीं मान सकते कि क्वालिटी देते हैं वो. मैं किसी सरकार को नहीं कह रहा, ना किसी कंपनी को कह रहा हूँ, पर सच्चाई को कह रहा हूँ. आई एम जस्ट स्पीकिंग ट्रूथ अबाउट दैट बैड क्वालिटी एग्जिस्ट इन प्रोडक्शन, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, कंस्ट्रक्शन एवरीवेयर ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड, but not everywhere. You can say, exactly speaking, in some parts of world's quality is excellent, in somewhere it's good, somewhere it's acceptable. But because of change of generation, because I'm talking of when I was young, when I started my work overseas in 1981, and from that time I found difference. I felt difference that exists in our country, Bharat, India, and overseas, particularly in Middle East. जब मैंने अपना इंजीनियरिंग का कैरियर स्टार्ट किया, उस टाइम जैसी क्वालिटी यहाँ पर थी भारत में, इंडिया में, जितनी मैं समझा था, और जब मैंने देखा जाके बाहर इराक में, लीबिया में, कतार में और कंट्रीज़ में क्वालिटी में कुछ फ़र्क था. जब मैं देखा समझा इराक के अंदर, बगदाद के अंदर, मैं हिल गया देख के जितना स्ट्रॉन्ग सिस्टम और क्वालिटी का था विदाउट क्वालिटी सिस्टम. शायद आज क्वालिटी सिस्टम होने के बाद भी नहीं है. मतलब क्वालिटी सिस्टम लागू करने का वो फ़ायदा नहीं दिखता है जो होना चाहिए था. आई एम नॉट फाइंडिंग एनी बेनिफिट ऑफ क्वालिटी सिस्टम. इट शुड रादर इम्प्रूव क्वालिटी, बट इट्स नॉट. इट हैज़ डिटेरियोरेटेड होल सिस्टम. Quality, workmanship, dedication, accuracy, all part of quality. Accuracy in dimensions, or you can say accuracy in production, accuracy in workmanship, whatever parts of quality you can say. Now, I can't trust. Trust building has gone. Trust building, विश्वास बनाना जीवन में किसी भी काम में बहुत बड़ा होता है. So it's not part of contract, but trust is important, more important than contract. Contract is a liability, contract is a binding, but trust is, you can say, it's like relation between human and God. Trust is that much, which cannot be justified which depends on experience of, yes, experience of acceptance. You can say, I trust this man because whatever this person says, shall do it, shall deliver that. That's called trust building, and trust building is very important. Though contract doesn't recognize trust, contracts require fulfillment of its scope of work quality. But is that done? That's point of view. क्या हम लोग कहते हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का कोई रिश्ता नहीं है ट्रस्ट से, प्रोफेशन का कोई रिश्ता नहीं है ट्रस्ट से, विश्वास से, क्योंकि विश्वास मन की बात होती है। इंजीनियरिंग में मन नहीं चलता। इन इंजीनियरिंग इट इज़ वर्क दैट मूव्स, एंड इन रियल लाइफ इट्स वर्क दैट मूव्स. We can talk of anything, but ultimately it is justification, it's logic, it's reason, and its result, it's evidence that works. We have to be very constructive about that. I talk daily about quality. It doesn't mean that I am quality hungry only. I am quantity hungry also, because quality and quantity never go separately. When I say quality less, it doesn't mean there is no quality. There is some quality, maybe probably 10%, 20%, 30%. But that's only 20, 30% or 40% or 50% does not give me solution, because I am cheated. Everybody who is a buyer is cheated. Everybody who is a user cheated. Cheated by whom? Cheated by a person who manufactures that item, who constructs that unit, or whatever you can say. That person cheats whom? Actually, that person doesn't know. वो जो बनाता है, जो सामान बेचता है, मैन्युफैक्चर करता है, शायद वो भी नहीं जानता वो किसको चीट कर रहा है, किसको धोखा दे रहा है. सच्चाई तो ये है कि वो अपने आप को धोखा दे रहा है. It's fact that a person who does not deliver quality product, that person is not going to save anything. I'm not sure. That person won't say, or may say something I can't say, but I'm sure that it's only application of no care, or you can say it's application of no strictness, that person is least bothers. Means that person actually quality less product means, or quality defective products means it's full of defects, and we should not take over. But at time of purchasing something, we do not know whether it's having that level of quality that is required, or it's having part level or half level. But once we start using that, when we experience performance of that product, at that time only we can say that it is whether good in quality or it is bad in quality. Before that time, no one can say. So it's a question mark again. Means how to make sure that this product has quality system inbuilt, or this product is quality based. Without testing, we cannot just believe in a reputation of a company, because I don't trust reputation. Reputation is made, it's created, but product is used. There's a difference. If some company say we have this and we have that, those claims I don't believe. I want to see evidence. And evidence, they may show you test certificates, they may show you anything, they may show you whatever they want to say. They see, look, this is our basis of claim that we have done this according to quality requirement. Okay, that is your test. I was not there at that time. I want to make sure that your product does it. Actually, world has changed. World has changed. Whole world has become earning money hungry. Everybody wants to make money as fast as possible because of economy, but they forget that they are working for consumers. They are working for users, and users, if they are not happy, They are not happy because quality is not good. Exceptions are there, I cannot say no. Some exceptions are there where is better control, they will find better quality. Where there is better supervision, better manufacturing, better design, you shall certainly find better quality. जहाँ अच्छा डिज़ाइन होगा, अच्छा काम होगा, अच्छा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होगा, कंट्रोल होगा, सब कुछ होगा, तो वहाँ गुणवत्ता भी अच्छी ही होगी, ये नहीं कह सकते आप. लेकिन ये जनरल नहीं है, सामान्य रूप से ऐसा नहीं है. It's not general. Even you can say, you find, you see what product, how many products you bought. Everybody buys product, you also buy product. But we ignore, problem is that. For example, you buy some small item like a scooter bike, or you buy car, you buy something which you may use for a couple of years and then you discard or you dispose that. For that, because you use every day, it's not performing well. But even then you cannot do anything because it's in warranty. They will befool you in name of warranty. They will befool you in name of guarantee. Warranty and guarantee doesn't mean that you should spoil that your time and those are 2 years warranty and your warranty is over. Now take AMC. And this is business tactics. So I don't consider it as adequate way. Means if your product is say for 10 years, at least for 5 years you should work properly without any interference, of course with maintenance and services, but नॉट दैट यू डिस्कार्ड दैट. आप 5-10 साल के लिए प्रोडक्ट लेते हैं, 10 साल का प्रोडक्ट जो है जिसका आप क्लेम करते 10 साल काम करेगा, तो 5 साल तो ढंग से काम करे. अगर 50% में एफिशिएंसी नहीं देता है तो क्या फ़ायदा से प्रोडक्ट 10 साल में आपने काम लेना है, उस 10 साल 10 ईयर्स काम लेना और 6 महीने में 2 हफ्ते में उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट आ जाती है, आप आइए ठीक कीजिए, ख़राब हो गया. Well, I think this is nonsense. This is not warranty. This is stupidity, you can say. It is a stupid item they are selling. It's stupid they are selling, and they are just selling it for purpose of selling. It's not because of use. I've seen many items which don't work even at time of buying, and they say it's certified product. I'm not waiting for a certificate. I don't want your certificate. Even if ISO 9000, whatever else, I'm not interested in certificate. What's my interest is your quality product. This is my argument. It's justified argument. No one can say no. It's because I pay you. As a consumer, as a user, I pay you. You're not doing any obligation on me. आप मेरे को एहसान नहीं कर रहे, मुझे प्रोडक्ट बेच के कोई एहसान नहीं दिखा रहे कि आपने फिर कल पैसा दे रहा हूँ आपको. You're not giving free service. Even if it's free service, it's not quality. So I blame on you directly. I blame on that organization which says I'm giving you this product, but I'm buying this product because I'm paying you. I pay you that money, which includes your profit and costs of everything that's been used in that product. So what does it mean? It means that I expect quantity with quality. If it doesn't give, it means I can't take action against. Problem is computerized world, careless world. They depend on computerization. They don't depend on human involvement as much as it should be. There was a time when computers were not very much in use, but human aspect was more important. And that time I think quality was better than it's today. It's really very extraordinary situation that quality in every product has gone off track. Track is only having quantity minus quality. So how to get it back? That is my effort. It's only way of education and you can say dissemination of information and encouragement of people to think of quality before. In particular, I'm not talking of engineers. Engineers are duty bound. Engineers are responsibility bound. They cannot run away from this. If they are in job, they are in involvement of production, manufacturing, it's their job. They cannot say no. There's no way to say no. You have to do it. That is requirement. You can't say no. If you say no, then you're not doing your job. But I'm stressing to people. I'm not stressing on engineers because they cannot run away. I say they have to do it. But unfortunately, they have become toys in hands of those who are playing with them. Many, you can say, of course, I can't say all of that, but what Quality speaks, what products speak, I'm talking of that. Ultimately, directly or indirectly, responsibility goes to engineering community. All engineers community is responsible for this. Strictly speaking, सच तो यही है, क्योंकि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो, निर्माण हो, उद्योग हो, प्रोडक्ट हो, कुछ भी हो, सब में अभियंता वर्ग ने लगना होता है. उसके बिना कोई काम नहीं हो सकता. वो क्यों ऐसा करते हैं वही जानते हैं. किस लालच में, किस दुविधा में वो क्वालिटी पे ध्यान नहीं देते हैं वही जाने. और क्वालिटी का मतलब ये नहीं है कि वारंटी पीरियड में आइटम काम कर रहे हैं तो क्वालिटी हो गई. वारंटी इज जस्ट द प्रोटेक्शन, नथिंग एल्स. बट होल लाइफ इटसेल्फ इज वारंटेड. व्हाट अबाउट दैट? दैट्स पॉइंट ऑफ कंसर्न. क्वालिटी का रिलेशन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट से है. यू कैनॉट let it go free. You have a contract of construction, you have a contract of manufacturing, you have a contract of processing, you have a contract of whatever technology. Contracts is, you can say, contracts issue is very significant as far as world of engineering is concerned, world of manufacturing, industrialization, construction is concerned, world of development is concerned. It's very much issue, and that's why I take up currently contracts. What is contract? What are contracts? How should we relate ourselves to them? And contract is nothing new, everybody knows contracts. What is contract? Relation between two parties, temporary relation, or you can't say permanent relation, because there's nothing as such except in operation and maintenance. But if you take example of production, or you can say industrial units or construction, no contract can be forever. In construction particularly, I'm interested in, because construction, first of all, it's a civil engineering world, and without construction nothing can move up. So construction is the start of engineering based that. Construction of development works, construction of whatever it is, construction is a starter for human development, for city development, for all world development. And it is particularly massively, you could say, it's civil in beginning of every project, construction project. And if civil engineers take care of this, I think that shall be better. And they do it, I don't say no. Their sacrificial tendencies, nature, working in sun and rain and hot, and working in without having any office there. They have not even timely food delivered. So you can say partly lifestyle of a civil engineer is unpleasant. In fact, it's uncomfortable. Every civil engineer faces this. If civil engineer relates to practical field or construction field, those who are in designs, I can exempt them from this, because they do not have practical experience or approach towards facing difficulties. They are mostly computer oriented, and they rarely come out of their computer laboratory. So I can say every engineer thinks to be computerized and thinks to be designer, planner. 90% engineers who are educated expect to be in office, and very few powerful engineers, I should say, they prefer practical works. And those who prefer practical works, they become responsibility bound to deliver products which are quality products, quality one. That's my concern actually. It's easy to say that engineer did not work. I cannot believe that. Engineers are not born for not to work. Every engineer wants to work if engineer is supported, respected, honored. Because work of civil engineer is very difficult, physically, mentally, and you can say support wise. It is only field where you sometimes don't have any facility and you have to work. In remote they work, in deserts they work, in cities rare work, very you can say very small works. But if you would say massive work where you feel major activities go on, that there is seen only in deserts or in remote, where for years they work without having any social life, without having any family life, and that is really, I can say, appreciable fact. I'm not here to appreciate civil engineers because no use of appreciation. It is part of life, it's part of job. If somebody wants to come to civil engineering, one should keep in mind that you have to accept all these plights of engineers. आपको अगर सिविल इंजीनियरिंग में आना है तो ये सोच के आइए कि आपको संघर्ष तो करना ही पड़ेगा। इस संघर्ष से कि कोई फैसिलिटी कभी नहीं है, कोई आराम नहीं है, कोई टाइम का नहीं है, जंगल में पड़े हैं, डेजर्ट में पड़े हैं, ये सब अगर आप नहीं कर सकते तो आप सिविल इंजीनियरिंग में आके गलती करते हैं। सिविल इंजीनियरिंग डिज़ाइन नहीं है खाली कि आपने बैठे ऑफिस में सॉफ्टवेयर किया, डिज़ाइन करके दे दिया। कुछ सिविल इंजीनियर ऐसा ही सोचते हैं एंड दे कंसिडर themselves superior. I don't think so. They are superior. This is a part of job. Maybe you are graduate engineer, BE or ME or PhD. Whatever education you have, that should improve civil engineering working, but it doesn't happen. After passing higher degrees, they think that they are not oriented for site work. And I say civil engineering is first orientation of site work. If you cannot work on site, then you cannot design at all because you do not know problems, you do not know difficulties. आपको पता ही नहीं क्या प्रॉब्लम आएगी। सिविल इंजीनियर का मतलब होता है आप डिज़ाइन भी आना चाहिए, आपको साइट का काम भी आना चाहिए। ठीक है, आप एक फील्ड में एक्सपर्ट हो सकते हैं कि मैं साइट का एक्सपर्ट हूँ, या मैं डिज़ाइन का एक्सपर्ट हूँ, या मैं क्वान्टिफिकेशन का एक्सपर्ट हूँ, या प्लानिंग का एक्सपर्ट हूँ। ठीक है, आप हो ये एक्सपर्ट, नोबडी सेज डोंट बी दैट, बट लाइफ इज़ वेरी लॉन्ग. You cannot work in one section all over. You have to take care of that. So it's just an, you can say, a talk, a suggested talk, how a civil engineer should think of. Because we talk of contracts, and contracts means it is very, you can say, it's work you have to do. Contract is a binding. Means contract is not an ordinary document. It's a binding on both parties, and not only both parties but also both groups, you can say. I consider it's a group rather than a person. When we say, okay, this is civil engineer, or this is engineer, or you can say this is a contractor, this is an owner, okay, fine, this is an employer, and I don't fix the employer directly responsible because employer has only risk of business promotion, and there will be losses also. So employer means is kind of a non-engineering person but business person, a person who does business, who sells something. That person has to face profits and losses in whatever project that starts. But I say construction group or contracting group and business or owner employer group, it's responsibility of not person who signed contract but also for those on behalf or for them this contract was signed. I consider all personnel involved in a contracting project company, contracted by a group, responsible for that contract signing. For whatever length you work in that site, you are to some extent and in some way responsible for that product, for that quality system, for that planning system, in fact for progress of project. Same way in employer or an owner, whoever is there, work for that, they are also responsible. Same way, you cannot simply pinpoint on signatures on contract. Of course, signature is a legal binding, but it doesn't say that others are not responsible. So whoever works with contractor and whoever works with employer, all are responsible and responsibility bound. That point we have to understand. जिम्मेदारी उत्तरदायित्व सबका है, वो चाहे एम्प्लॉयर के साथ काम करने वाला व्यक्ति हो या वो ठेकेदार के साथ काम करने वाला व्यक्ति हो, हर व्यक्ति जिम्मेदार है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे जो भी वहाँ है. एक तरह से आप कह सकते हैं जब भी आप साइट पे ज्वाइन करते हैं, किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट पे ज्वाइन करते हैं, तो आप उतनी ही प्रोपोर्शनल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेते हैं जितनी उस साइट का कॉन्ट्रैक्टर लेता है या उस साइट का ऑनर लेता है. आप स्वयं को ऑनर समझ के काम करेंगे तो अच्छा. हालांकि आप ऑनर नहीं, हम जानते हैं, लेकिन आपकी कुछ तो ऑनरशिप है ना. टू सम एक्सटेंट यू आर ऑनर फॉर योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, फॉर योर जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन, and for how many hours you work a day and for how many months you shall work on this project, you are responsible to that, though there's no liability on you. But you think only liability is a consideration, your intuition, your incorporation, your, you can say, contribution, everything is very important. That might be, means you are not just here for instrument, you are here, you are structure, you are a body, temporary body structure there. You are going to work for a project, for something, and that is system quality. I am saying it happens on projects because this is human oriented activities. It is generally in civil, though there are mechanical elements. No activities these days, no major activities these days can be carried out, can be conducted without input of mechanical power, automatism. Of course, otherwise we cannot do that activity. You can take case of major activities like excavation, like concreting, which are very major products, or you can say materials used on sites, every site, and these are partly done mechanically and partly done manually. We cannot just skip and say no, machines will operate it. We cannot say. We have not reached that stage yet. So we have to be very careful about this. We cannot pass responsibility onto one or to all. Yes, financially it's okay, but contribution on every project is extended by hundreds and hundreds and thousands hands. That we have to understand. We should not regard everybody in that level. I just think always, and I also raise questions also. We cannot do work without our workforce. And our workforce, you can say academically, they are not very well educated, but work-wise they are masters. Maybe, for example, shuttering carpenter, you can say formwork carpenter, masons, you can say wall builders, tilers, and we say steel fixers, plumbers, welders, concrete masons, you name whosoever. Everybody is important, everybody. We sometimes and often never regard them. We never regard them, and that is our weakness, not their weakness. If you don't regard them, this is our misunderstanding about work. Just tell me how many of us know actual masonry work or actual form work. We can direct only. We can give them details and they have to work. This means they understand details. They understand physical work. 90%, 80% time they work using body, physical work. And you can say 10% time or 5% time they go into depth of drawings to think of how to do that. And there is wonder lies in, because everybody has different approach. Every supervisor, every foreman, every charge hand. But ultimate result is constructed product. We can say that without contribution by these people, by these technicians or artisans or craftspersons, we cannot complete any product, any project. Yes, they are not university graduates, but they are technical graduates without having any certificate. Work is itself a certificate. Sometimes I feel surprised the speed which they work and quality sometimes they give, but they should be asked to give quality. And we have to train ourselves how to get quality from this group of people, group of personnel. In fact, we are weak, to be very frank. We are weak because we do not value quality. We do not value quality, though we say only my work is according to quality, but it doesn't happen. हमें अपने वर्कर्स का, अपने कर्मी जो हमारे साथ काम करते हैं फील्ड में, वो किसी भी डेजिग्नेशन के हों, पद के हों, चाहे वो कारपेंटर हो, मेसन हो, वेल्डर हो, फिर प्लम्बर हो, कंक्रीट पेवर, कुछ भी वो हों, उनके बिना हम आगे नहीं जा सकते. सवाल नहीं उठता. हम आगे नहीं जा सकते क्योंकि उनकी सहायता की हमको आवश्यकता है, बिना उसके हम काम नहीं कर सकते. जहाँ तक कंस्ट्रक्शन का सवाल है, प्रश्न है. बाकी फील्ड में, मैकेनिकल में, डक्टिंग में, इलेक्ट्रिकल में डिफरेंट है, उसमें इतना नहीं है. वहाँ 1 2 3 4 भी अगर इलेक्ट्रिशियन तो बहुत बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट को निकाल सकते हैं. लेकिन सिविल में ऐसा नहीं है. सिविल तो एक यू कैन से नेचुरल मेटल के साथ रहने वाला, काम करने वाला, कच्चा माल लेके पक्का बनाने वाला एक ऐसा सिस्टम है, ग्रुप है, जो न धुंध देखता है, न रात देखता है, न धूप देखता है, न छाँव देखता है, न गर्मी देखता है, न सन देखता है. उसको तो काम करना ही पड़ेगा. आपको सिविल इंजीनियर्स कभी रिफाइंड नहीं मिलेंगे, गुस्से वाले मिलेंगे, एग्रेसिव मिलेंगे, लेकिन बहुत डायनेमिक मिलेंगे. बहस भी करेंगे, उनकी बातें भी कई बार आपको अच्छी नहीं लगेंगी, कोई बात नहीं. जब धूप में आप काम करेंगे तो आपको गुस्सा आएगा, थकावट भी होगी. दिस इज फैक्ट ऑफ लाइफ. ऑल वेदर कंडीशन दे फेस, एंड दैट्स व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट. आपको धूप में काम करना पड़े, गर्मी में 50 डिग्री होता था बगदाद में एक समय था, 48 49 50 तो गल्फ में भी होता है. आप जरा आधे घंटे खड़े हो तो भी दिखा दीजिए. नहीं खड़े हो पाएंगे क्योंकि आप एसी कार के दीवाने हैं, आप एसी ऑफिस के दीवाने हैं. आपको क्या लेना मौसम का हाल जान के. इसलिए वो लोग ये सब सहते हैं, और जो ये सब सहते हैं वो मेरे साथी हैं, क्योंकि मैंने भी बहुत सहा है इन चीज़ों को. I digested all these circumstances during my site careers. Though that time I used to think that it's below dignity, as I should be a big officer while sitting in office, and I use my mind on designs and say this is intellectual work. But fact remains that intellectualism doesn't work every moment. Every moment something else works. Devotion, you can say, suggestion, commitment, obligation, and determination of target time. We have to deliver this work on or before this time. That is most important. Therefore, as far as contractors or contracting is concerned, we have to be careful, because contracting is not just a means of making money. Contracting in engineering, and particularly in civil construction, is very powerful discipline, but based on honest people requirements. If people are not honest, people are crooked, and you cannot expect that project to move successfully. I don't want to talk only about my ideas. My target is not my ideas. I just want to explain. It is about quality system. We know that without contracts we cannot move. We It's like a dream. I will be very happy if engineers say no, we are going to do it ourselves. We don't need any contracting company. We have enough workforce, and whatever workforce is required, we shall recruit. Again I say, it's material that is required, it's human resources that is required, and it is technology you can say is required, and we have to just deliver that. We have to just deliver that. That's important. If we can deliver it with quality in field, I think that's the best answer. Yes, we have answer. इसलिए हम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की बात कर रहे हैं कि बिना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कुछ नहीं होगा. If we bring quality to the contract, I think we can change scenario. It's no government that can change it. Only engineers can change it. I can say that. And if engineers also think of different ways, that I'm only interested in making money, I least bother about something else, you can see what shall happen. That's point of seriousness we have to understand. If you are serious in mind or serious in thoughts, you shall certainly take care of whatever is your responsibility. Your responsibility is your faith. You are bound to do that for sake of universe, for sake of earth, for sake of those people who are owners of something that time. Because I say contract, and contract is very valuable item, valuable dastaveez or document in construction or in designs or whatever. And we are talking of silver book, which is valid for designs and construction, or you can say EPC contracts, where employer is free to do anything except giving passive support. But contract is contract again. I say we have to deliver it, and that is main requirement. We have to deliver contract, perform contract. So there may be defects in contract, and defects because it's not machine made, it's human made. We can't make everything by machine, and we can't check everything being human. But you can say a kind of surveillance, a kind of eyes use is always operated on works. Defects are natural, it's human or it's something else. That is because of whom defects appear. I don't mind that if there are reasonable degree of defects. It's no question of that what shall my owner say or what shall that maid say. I do not make differences in that. Defects, as I said in many other clauses, we have discussed so much. Of course, superficially you cannot remember everything every time, but we have seen that defects and takeover and many other follow-ups after that. Completion of outside work, outstanding work, and remedying defects, what it says. In order that works and contractors documents and each section shall be in condition required by contract, fair wear and tear accepted. Fair wear and tear accepted by expiry date of real, in order that works and contractors documents in each section shall be in condition required by contract by expiry date of relevant defects, no notification period, or as soon as practicable thereafter. Contract shall complete every work. Contractor shall complete work which is outstanding on relevant date of completion within time stated in taking over certificate or such other reasonable time as is instructed by employer, and execute all work required to remedy defects or damage of which a notice is given to contractor by or on behalf of employer on or before expiry date of defects notification period for works or section as case may be, in order that works and contractors documents and each section shall be in condition required by contract fair guaranteer accepted by expiry date of relevant. Okay, so we can say in a defect, if a defect appears or damage occurs during relevant DNP defects notification period, a notice shall be given to contractor accordingly by or on behalf of employer promptly thereafter. And what it should be, contractor and employer's personnel shall jointly inspect defect or damage. Contractor and employer's personnel shall jointly inspect defect or damage. Contractor shall then prepare and submit a proposal for necessary remedial work. Second, third and fourth paragraph of defects and restrictions shall apply. Well, we'll see them later on. Cost of remedying defect. All work under subparagraph completion of outstanding work and remedying defects shall be executed at risk and cost of contractor. If and to extent that work is attributed to design of works other than part of design for which employer is responsible, plant materials or workmanship not being in accordance with contract, improper operation or maintenance which was attributable to matters for which contractor is responsible. You can say training, as-built records, operation and maintenance manuals, otherwise, etc. Failure by contractor to comply with any other obligation under contract. If contractor considers that work is attributable to some other cause, contractor shall promptly give a notice to employer, and employer's representative proceed under agreement or determination to agree or determine cause. And for purpose of this, you can say time limits. Date of this notice shall be date of commencement of time limit for agreement under given clause. If it's agreed or determined that work is attributable to a cause other than those listed, variation by instructions shall apply as if such work had been instructed by employer. एक्सटेंशन ऑफ डिफेक्ट्स नोटिफिकेशन पीरियड। देखिए बहुत सीरियस होते हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स आर ऑलवेज वेरी सीरियस। डोंट वरी अबाउट लैंग्वेज इज टू बी सेट। वी हैव not to care about translation or grammar in English language. We have to think of how do we formulate contract that carries interpretation everywhere. Contract language is always difficult for a newcomer, but it's not that difficult because it's not literal language. It's a practical language you can use in past or you can use in future in whatever way, but It's the extension of defects notification period is. Now employer shall be entitled to an extension of DNP, that is defects notification period, for works or a section of part of works if taking over of parts of works applies. If and to extend that works section for part of works or a major item of plant cannot be used for intended purposes by reason of a defect or damage which is attributable to either of matters under cost of remedying defects, claims for payment, etc., payment year. However, a DNP shall not be extended more than a period of 2 years, and expiry of DNP stated in contract data. If delivery and erection of plant and materials suspended under clause implied suspension, other than where cause of suspension is the responsibility of contractor, or suspension by contractor clause applies, contractor's obligation under this clause shall not apply to any defects or damage occurring more than 2 years after DNP for works, or you can say defects notification period for works of which plant and material form part would otherwise have expired. Well, failure to remedy defects we are going to discuss, but for that again we have to stress on contracts. Contract should be reflective, it should not be superlative. I mean to say, it should tell what contractor has to do, and it should also tell what actions employer has to take, and of course engineer independent of this contract has to deal with both for requirements of contract. A kind of administrator, you can say, a kind of surveillancer, you can say. Engineer has different types of responsibility on construction or EPC contracts, because when PM goes night, responsibility is, you can say, not absolutely shared, but we have to depend on those people, those servants at home who are informed about this, and they are in fact now. If remedying of any defect or damage under completion of outstanding works and remedying defects is unduly delayed by contractor, a date may be fixed by employer on or by which date defect can or damage is to be remedied. In notice of this fixed date shall be given to contractors, and contractor suffers. I say, in notice of this fixed date shall be given to contractor by employer, which notice shall allow contractor reasonable time to remedy defect or damage. If contractor fails to remedy defect or damage by date given stated in this notice, and this remedial work was to be executed at cost of contractor, cost of remedying defects, employer may at employer's sole discretion can carry out work or have work carried out by others, including retesting, in manner required under contract and at contractor's cost, but contractor shall have no responsibility for this work. Employer shall be entitled to claims for payment or EOT to payment by contractor of costs reasonably incurred by employer in remedying defects or damage, except damaged or defective work, in which case employer shall be entitled for claims or payments for EOT. Payment of performance damages by contractor in full satisfaction of this failure. There is no schedule of performance, you can say guarantees. If there is no schedule of performance guarantees under contract or no applicable performance damages, a reduction in cost price reduction shall be in full satisfaction of this failure only and shall be in amount as shall be appropriate to cover reduced value of to employer as a result of this failure. Again I say, if there is no schedule of performance guarantees under contract or no applicable performance damages, reduction in contract price reduction shall be in full satisfaction of this failure only and shall be in amount as shall be appropriate to cover reduced value of employer as a result of this failure. Treat whatever part of works which cannot be used for its intended purpose under contract by reason of his failure as an omission, as if such omission had been instructed under variation by instruction. Treat any part of works which cannot be used for its intended purpose under contract by reason of its failure as an omission. Terminate contract as a whole with immediate effect that because the employer shall then be entitled, you say, terminate contract as a whole with immediate effect terminate contract as a whole with immediate effect. Termination for contract is default if defects or damage deprives employer of sustainability whole benefit of works. The employer shall then be entitled subject to claims for payment to recover from contractor all sums paid for works plus financing charges and whatever costs incurred in dismantling same, clearing site and returning plant and materials to contractor. Exercise of discretion by employer under subparagraphs above shall be without prejudice to any other rights employer may have under contract or otherwise. भाई बड़ी आसान सी बात है, देखिए ठेका दोनों का है, एम्प्लॉयर का और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में सही काम करके देना है और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर सही काम नहीं करेगा, डिफेक्टिव करेगा तो उसको भुगतना तो पड़ेगा ना, इसमें कोई बड़ी बात तो नहीं है। और अगर एम्प्लॉयर सही टाइम पे पैसा नहीं देगा, सही ट्रीट नहीं करेगा, तो एम्प्लॉयर को भुगतना पड़ेगा। भाई जिसकी गलती खमेजा भुगतो यार, इसमें क्या हो गया। आप काम नहीं करेंगे तो आपको नुकसान तो होगा, और उसको भी होगा जिसके लिए आप काम कर रहे हैं। ठेका है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है। इसलिए मैंने कहा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इतना आसान नहीं है। एक पार्टी का आप सोचें, दूसरी का ना सोचें, तो किस चीज़ का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है। ये तो वन साइड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया, जो मेरी डोमिनेशन है, जैसा मैं कहता हूँ ऐसा करो। नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इक्विटी बेस्ड होते हैं, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डोमिनेशन बेस्ड नहीं होते हैं। एक तरह के चार्टर हैं, मैंने आपको ये कहा ये करो, ये आपके अधिकार, और आपने मुझे कहा ये करो, ये आपके अधिकार। यही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, एक दूसरे के अधिकार लिख के देना। इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन पर आपका अधिकार है, आपने काम करके देना है, और ये मेरा अधिकार है, मैंने आपको ये ड्राइंग देनी है, ये डिटेल देनी है, और ये आपका रिलेशन है उससे। ये बातें इन लोगों को समझ नहीं आती। इसीलिए क्वालिटी इन कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। इट्स नॉट ओनली क्वालिटी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट, contract must be quality based. Quality based means keeping abreast how our system moves. It should contain all levels of problems, experience one on every site. We cannot change every project according to demands. We can change ourselves to meet that demand. Now, remedying of defects works off-site. We have various views on this. Now, we'll go to another one, that is remedying of defects works off-site. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को हर व्यक्ति नहीं समझ सकता। जो लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की लैंग्वेज से डरते हैं, जो लोग टेक्स्ट से डरते हैं, वो क्या कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को समझेंगे ये मैं नहीं जानता। लेकिन माइंड रखना, आप कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं समझेंगे तो आप एक अच्छे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के इंजीनियर या एम्प्लॉयर के इंजीनियर नहीं बन सकते, क्योंकि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जानना ज़रूरी है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट समझना ज़रूरी है। ये कह देना मेरे पास इतना टाइम नहीं था, ये एक अच्छी बात नहीं है प्रोफेशन के हिसाब से। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक प्लेटफॉर्म है जहाँ दोनों लोग बैठ के अपना काम करते हैं और देश के लिए, विश्व के लिए अपने आप को उपस्थित कर देते हैं। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में परफॉर्मेंस होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। इफ़ यू कैनॉट परफॉर्म ऑन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, यू कैनॉट मूव फर्दर एंड यू हैव नो वैलिडिटी। Remedying of defects work off-site. If during defects notification period, contractor considers that whatever defect or damage in plant cannot be remedied expeditiously on site, contractor shall give ways which if during DNP contractor considers that defects or damage in whatever plant cannot be remedied expeditiously On site, contractor shall give a notice. Contractor should notice with reasons to employer requesting consent to remove defective or damaged plant off site for purpose of repair. So we can say this notice shall clearly identify each item of a defective or damaged plant and shall give details of defect or damage to be repaired. Defect or damage to be repaired. Place to which defective or damaged plant is to be taken for repair. लग रही है भाई, क्या करेगा यार, कोल्ड है काफी, थोड़ा ऊपर पे डालने थोड़ी देर इसको, क्या करें. ओके. Defect or damage to be repaired. Defect or damage to be repaired. Place to which defective or damaged plant is to be taken for repair. Transportation to be used. Insurance cover for such transportation. Proposed inspection and testing of site. Plant duration required before repair. Plant shall be returned to site. Plant duration or installation and retesting of repaired plant. Testing by contractors and testing on completion if applicable. It says very important points in this when you are taking something off site. It says if during DNP contractor considers that defect or damage caused in plant cannot be remedied expeditiously on site, contractor shall give a notice with reasons to the employer requesting consent to remove defective or damaged plant off site for purpose of repair. This notice shall clearly identify each item of defective or damaged plant and shall give details of give a notice with reasons to employer requesting consent to remove defective or damaged plant off site for purpose of repair. This notice shall clearly identify each item of defective or damaged plant and give details of defect or damage to be repaired, place to which defective or damaged plant is to be taken for repair, transportation to be used and insurance cover for such transportation. Proposed inspection and testing of site, plant duration required before repair plant shall be returned to site, and plant duration for reinstallation and retesting of repaired plant, testing by contractors and or class 9 test on completion if applicable. Contractor shall also provide any further details that employer may reasonably require. When employer gives consent, which consent shall not relieve contractor from whatever obligation or responsibility under clause, contractor may remove from site such items of plant as are defective or damaged. As condition of this consent, employer may require contractor to increase amount of performance security by full replacement costs of defective or damaged plant. मुसीबत होती, बड़ा प्लांट डिफेक्टिव निकल आए, उसको वहाँ से हटाना, उसको ट्रांसपोर्ट करना, कहाँ करना, अगर वो ओवरसीज़ के आइटम है उसका कोई एजेंट है कि नहीं, लोकल में, डोमेस्टिक में, ऑल दिस पॉइंट्स मस्ट बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. होता है कुछ आइटम होंगी, रेयर आइटम जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन मांगते हैं, हमको ये भी समझना आवश्यक है. डिफेक्ट्स आर डिफेक्ट्स एंड ऑल डिफेक्ट्स कैन नॉट बी अंडरस्टूड बाय एवरीबॉडी. ओनली स्पेशलिस्ट, focused specialist workers, specialists, you can say technicians, are requirement or demand of the day for purpose of maintenance, repair and further that activity. Further test the remedying defects, और आगे क्या टेस्ट हो वो भी देखना है. Further test and remedying defects. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चलते हैं, हजारों कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चलते हैं दुनिया में. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि सारे ख़राब होते हैं, लोग अच्छे भी हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स, प्रोफेशनल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कह सकते हैं जिसको हम, बहुत रीजनेबल, बहुत अच्छा काम करने वाले, जिनके लिए काम सब कुछ है, रेपुटेशन सब कुछ है, उससे बढ़ के पैसा नहीं, ऐसे भी हैं. और जो पैसे के पीछे रहते हैं ऐसे भी हैं. लेकिन जब बात परफॉर्मेंस की आए, जब बात रेपुटेशन की आए, जब बात क्वालिटी की आए, तो एक अलग ही स्टाइल होता है, एक अलग ही सोच होती है. क्वालिटी के बिना आप सांस भी नहीं ले पाएंगे. इसलिए मेरे लिए ये बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक क्वालिटी का, क्योंकि जहाँ वर्क है, परफॉर्मेंस है, बिना क्वालिटी के नहीं हो सकती. नॉट पॉसिबल. Further tests after remedying defects within 7 days of completion of work. Within 7 days of completion of work of whatever defect or damage, contractor gives notice to employer is describing remedied work section and plant and proposed repeated tests on completion, test after completion as applicable. If employer doesn't respond within 14 days, if employer doesn't respond within 14 days after receiving this notice, by giving a notice to contractor objecting to such proposed repeated testing and or instructing repeated tests that are necessary to demonstrate that remedial works sections and or plants comply with contract, employer shall be deemed to have agreed with contractor's proposed repeated tests. If contractor fails to give such a notice within 7 days, employer may give a notice to contractor within 14 days after defect or damage is remedied, instructing repeated tests that are necessary to demonstrate that remedied work section or plant comply with contract. All repeated tests under this subclause shall be carried out in accordance with terms applicable to the previous tests, except that they shall be carried out at risk and cost of party liable under this clause, cost of remedying defects or cost of remedial works. पढ़ा हमने checked about defects, we checked about works, and we checked about a lot. You may find that gradually, from point to point, we are going to enter into conscious of organ and also conscious of real mind. Right of access after taking over. हमने उठा लिया, उसमें राइट्स की क्या बात आती है, एक्सेस कैसे करेंगे. It's a question here, it's a clause here, sub clause here में से access to right of access after taking over. Until date 28 days after issue of performance certificate, contractor shall have right of access to all parts of works and to records of operation, maintenance and performance of works, except as may be inconsistent with employer's reasonably qualified until 28 days after issue of performance certificate, contractor shall have right of access to all parts of works and to records of operation, maintenance and performance of works, except as may be consistent with employers' reasonably security restrictions. Of course, except as may be inconsistent with employers' reasonable security restrictions. Whenever contractor intends to access whatever part of works or such records during relevant DNP, contractor shall request access by giving notice to employer describing parts of works and records to be accessed, reasons for such access, and contractor's preferred date for access. This notice shall be given in reasonable time in advance of preferred date of access, taking due regard of all relevant circumstances, including employer's security restrictions. Within 7 days after receiving such contractor's notice, employer shall give a notice to contractor either stating employer's consent to contractor's request or proposing reasonably alternate dates with reasons. Within 7 days after receiving contractor's notice, employer shall give a notice to contractor either stating employer's consent to contractor's request or proposing reasonable alternative dates with reasons. If employer fails to give this notice within 7 days, now proposing reasonable alternative dates with reasons. If employer fails to give notice in 7 days, employer shall be deemed to have given consent to contractors. If contractor incurs additional cost, if contractor incurs additional cost as a result of whatever unreasonable delay by employer in permitting access to works or such records by intended Now we are going to something where if a contractor incurs cost, additional cost as a result of whatever unreasonable delay by employer in permitting access to works or such records by a contractor shall be entitled subject to subclause for transaction. Now, contract research. Contract research is a very important point. Contract research. Contractor shall, if instructed by employer, a contract shall search. If has been instructed by employer, search for cause of defect. Contractor search says contractor shall, if instructed by employer, search for cause of defect. Under direction of employer, contractor shall carry out search on dates stated in employer's instruction or other dates agreed with employer. Unless defect is remedied, cost of contractors, cost of remedying defects on contractors shall be entitled subject to claims for payment and EOT payment of cost plus profit or such. If contractor fails to carry out such in accordance with this subclause, such may be carried out by employer's personnel. Contractor shall be given a notice of date when such search shall be carried out, and contractor may attend contractor's own cost. If defect is to be remedied at cost of contractor, under cost of remedying defects, employer shall be entitled subject to claims for payment and or EOT to payment by contractors of cost of search reasonably incurred by employer. Performance certificate. Performance certificate. Performance certificate is a very important document from contractual viewpoint. From a contractual viewpoint, it's a very important document. We cannot move our eyes, We cannot be very, very contractual one. It says performance of contractors' obligations, performance of contractors' obligations under contract shall not be considered to have been completed until employer has issued performance certificate to contractor stating date on consumer crisis break stage the performance of contractor's obligations under contract shall not be considered to have been completed until employer has issued performance certificate to the contractor stating date on which contractor fulfilled contractor's obligations under contract. So that's what we see here. That's what we consider here of utmost important about performance certificate, which is required for all this. Employer shall issue performance certificate to contractor with a copy to DAAB, which is Disputes Adjudication Avoidance Board, within 28 days after latest of expiry dates of defects notification periods, or as soon as thereafter as contractor has supplied all contractor's document and if applicable says that employer shall issue performance certificate to contractor within 28 days after latest of expiry dates of defects notification periods, or as soon as thereafter as contract has supplied all contractor's document and if applicable employer has given a notice of no objection to as built records and under sub paragraph of subclause as built records. Completed and tested all works in accordance with contract. If employer fails to issue performance certificate within this period of 28 days, performance certificate shall be deemed to have been issued on date 28 days after date on which it should have been issued as required by the subclause. Only performance certificate shall be deemed to constitute acceptance of works. Only performance certificate shall be deemed to constitute acceptance of works. Unfulfilled obligations. After issue of performance certificate, each party shall remain liable for fulfillment of whatever obligation which remains unperformed at that time. For purpose of determining nature and extent of unperformed obligations, contract shall be deemed to remain in force. For purposes of determining nature and extent of unperformed obligations, contract shall be deemed to remain in force. However, in relation to plant, contract shall not be liable for whatever defects or damage occurring more than 2 years after expiry of DNP for plant, except if prohibited by law, or in whatever case of fraud, gross negligence, deliberate default, or reckless misconduct. However, in relation to plant, contractor shall not be liable for whatever defects or damage occurring more than 2 years after expiry of DNP for plant, except if prohibited by law, or in whatever case of fraud, gross negligence, deliberate default or reckless misconduct. आपको ये समझा दें कि DNP एक्चुअली क्या है. डिफेक्ट्स नोटिफिकेशन पीरियड आपके वर्क के कंप्लीट होने के बाद भी काफ़ी समय तक ही चलता है, जैसा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में दिया हुआ. समय हुआ जो डिफेक्ट्स पता लगे, डिस्कवर हों, और वो टाइम होना चाहिए उसको ठीक करने का. उसको आपने इशारा बनाया, इशारे का दिन हो गया वो. क्लियरेंस ऑफ साइट. क्लियरेंस ऑफ साइट बहुत बड़ी बात. साइट को क्लियर करना है. promptly after issue of performance certificate, contractor shall remove remaining contractors' equipment, material, wreckage, rubbish and temporary works from site. Reinstate all parts of site which were affected by contractors' activities during execution of works and are not occupied by permanent works. Leave site and works in condition stated in construction contracts. Promptly after issue of performance certificate, contractor shall remove any remaining contractor's equipment, surplus material, wreckage, rubbish and temporary works from site. Reinstate all parts of site which were affected by contractors' activities during execution of works and again Reinstate all parts of site which were affected by contractors' activities during execution of works and are not occupied by permanent works. And if leave site and works in accordance in a condition that stated in employer's requirements, if not stated in a clear and safe condition. If contractor fails to comply with above within 28 days after issue of performance certificate, employer may sell to extent permitted by applicable laws or otherwise dispose of any or whatever remaining items and or may reinstate and clean the site if fail. Now contractor fails to comply with this, within 28 days of performance certificate, employer may sell whatever wants if it's legally permissible. Otherwise, dispose of items, any items may reinstate a clean site. This may be necessary. Employer shall be entitled to subject. Employer shall be entitled subject to clause claims for payment of EOT, payment by contractor to owner and contractor to now test after completion. Test after completion. Test after completion. Procedure for test after completion. If tests after completion are specified in employer's requirements, this clause shall apply. Timing of tests after completion shall be as soon as reasonably practicable after works or section have been taken over by employer. Employer shall provide all electricity, water, sewage if required, fuel, consumables, materials, and make employer's personnel ready for now procedures for test after completion is a very important one. If tests after completion are specified in employer's requirements, this clause shall apply. Time of test for completion shall be as soon as practicably reasonable, or time of test after completion shall be as soon as is practicable and is reasonable after works or section have been taken over by employer. Employer shall provide all electricity, water, sewage, fuel, consumables, materials, and make employer's personal and plant available for tests after completion. Contractor shall provide all other apparatus. Contractor shall provide all other apparatus, assistance, documents, and other information, equipment, instruments, labors, and suitably qualified, experienced, and competent staff. As necessary to carry out tests after completion. Efficiently and properly. Efficiently and properly. Submit employer not later than 42 days. Submit employer not later than 42 days before the dates of contractor. Submit employer not later than 42 days before date contractor intends to commence tests after completion. So what is that? Provide all of the apparatus assistance that's happened already. It says contractor shall provide all other apparatus, assistance, documents, and other information, equipment, instruments, labor, suitably qualified, experienced, and competent staff as are necessary to carry out tests after completion efficiently and properly. Submit employer not less than 42 days before date contractor intends to commence tests after completion. A detailed test program showing intended timing and resources required for these tests. Employer may review proposed test programs and may give a notice to contractor. Employer may review test programs and may give notice to contractor, stating extent to which it does not comply with contract. Within 14 days after receiving this notice, contractor shall revise test program to rectify such non-compliance. If employer gives no such notice within 14 days after receiving test program or revised test program, employer shall be deemed to have given a notice of no objection. In addition to any date shown in test program, give a notice to employer of not less than 21 days. In addition to any date shown in test program, given a notice to employer of not less than 21 days of date after which contractor shall be ready to carry out each of tests after completion. In addition to any dates shown on test program, give a notice to employer of not less than 21 days of date after which contractor shall be ready to carry out each of tests after completion. Not commence tests after completion until a notice of no objection is given or deemed to have been given by employer to a contractor's test program. Commencement this test after completion of 14 days. Commence test after completion of 14 days after date stated in notice under subparagraph or on such day or days as employer shall instruct. Proceed to carry out tests after completion. Proceed to carry out tests after completion in accordance with Contact us test program to which employer has given a notice of no objection. Proceed. What happens after that? Says commence test after completion of 14 days. Commence test after completion of 14 days after date stated in notice. Under subparagraph above, or on such day or days as employer shall instruct. Now I think my time is there. I have to go for something very important, and I'll be back. So no problem. I think I have to digest this, right? Let's finish this. Not commence test after completion until notice no objection is given. By employer to conduct test program, commence test after completion in 14 days after date stated in notice under subparagraph on such day or days as employer shall instruct. Proceed to carry out tests after completion in accordance with contractor's test program, to which employer is given a notice of no objection. Employer's requirements and, if applicable, O&M manuals to which employer has given or deemed to have given notice of no objection under operation maintenance manuals. In presence of such employer's personnel and or contractors personnel as either party may reasonably request. Results of tests after completion shall be compiled and evaluated by both parties. Appropriate account shall be taken of effect of employer's prior use of works. Delayed tests. We'll take care of this. I'll come back within a couple of minutes. And meanwhile, I think we have to be serious on this issue. It's a de facto issue. And let me have some time. Okay, we'll continue delayed tests. We continue delayed tests. If contractor has given a notice, if contractor has given a notice under subparagraph of subclause procedure for tests after completion, works or section, as case may be, are ready for tests after completion, and contractor is prevented from carrying out tests after completion. All these tests are unduly delayed by employer's personnel or by cause for which employer is responsible. Delayed test means what? टेस्ट में देरी होना. सिंपल मीनिंग है टेस्ट में देरी होना. If contractor has given a notice under subclause procedure for tests after completion that works or section are ready for tests after completion, and contractor is prevented from carrying out tests after completion, or these tests are unduly delayed by employer's personnel or by a cause for which employer is responsible. किसी भी कारण से टेस्ट में देरी होती है, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर नोटिस भी दे दे एम्प्लॉयर को, उसके बाद भी कोई भी रीज़न रहा हो, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का वर्क का टेस्ट एम्प्लॉयर नहीं कर रहा है या एम्प्लॉयर के पर्सनल नहीं कर रहे, तो क्या होता है? उस जिसके लिए एम्प्लॉयर रिस्पॉन्सिबल है वो कारण, contractor shall carry out tests after completion as soon as practicable and in any case before expiry date of relevant D&P defects notification period. Contractor shall carry out tests after completion as soon as practicable in whatever case before expiry date of relevant D&P. If contractor incurs costs as a result of any such prevention, if contractor incurs cost as a result of every such prevention and or delay, contractor shall be entitled, subject to claims for payment and or EOT, to payment of such cost plus profit. अगर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को टेस्ट करने नहीं जा रहा, उससे कोई भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का नुकसान होता है या एक्सटेंशन ऑफ टाइम की आवश्यकता पड़ती है, तो उसके लिए कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का हक होगा. इफ फॉर रीजंस नॉट एट्रिब्यूटेबल टू कॉन्ट्रैक्टर, टेस्ट आफ्टर कंप्लीशन ऑफ वर्क्स और एनी सेक्शन cannot be completed during DNP or whatever other period agreed by both parties, works or section shall be deemed to have passed this test after completion. किसी भी कारण से जिसमें कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का फॉल्ट नहीं है, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का कसूर नहीं है, टेस्ट कंप्लीशन का कंप्लीट नहीं हो सकता डीएनपी में या कोई भी ऐसा टाइम जो दोनों ने मान्य किया हो, एम्प्लॉयर ने कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ने, ये माना जाएगा कि टेस्ट पास हो चुका है. आफ्टर कंप्लीशन टेस्ट पास हो गया है. रीटेस्टिंग subject to failure to pass tests after completion if works or section fail to pass tests after completion. Completion of outstanding works and remedying defects shall apply. Completion of outstanding work, remedying defects shall apply, and further tests after remedying defects shall apply. If and to extent that failure and retesting are attributable to any or whatever matter listed, cost of remedying defects and cost of employer to incur additional cost, employer shall be entitled, subject to claims for payment or EOT, to payment of these costs by contractor. Failure to pass test after completion. Failure to pass test after completion. ये बहुत टेस्ट का चैप्टर आसान नहीं, क्योंकि टेस्ट बहुत बड़ा काम छोटा नहीं, फेलियर हो जाए if is always there. It's quality. We're talking, we're not talking jokes. Works or a section fails, works or a section fails to pass either or all tests after completion. कोई काम या कोई काम का सेक्शन फेल हो जाए टेस्ट पास करने से, काम खत्म होने के बाद, applicable performance damages are set out in schedule of performance guarantees. Performance damages are set out in schedule of performance guarantees. Employer shall be entitled for payment or EOT claims of these performance damages by contractor in full satisfaction of this failure. If contractor pays these performance damages to employer during DNP, works of section shall be deemed to have passed test after completion. Important बात. क्लास बड़ा है, इम्पोर्टेंट है, इसलिए इसको समझना भी उतना ही इम्पोर्टेंट है. अगर भाई आप फेल हो गए पास कराने में टेस्ट, इनका कहना है if employer shall be entitled subject to claims for payment and EOT to payment of these performance damages by contractor in full satisfaction of this failure. If contractor pays these performance damages to employer during defects notification period, works or section shall be deemed to have passed these tests after completion. Claims payment और EOT में बनता है अगर, और ये टेस्ट फेल हो जाते हैं, कि पेमेंट of these performance test damages by contractors in full satisfaction हो जाए तो टेस्ट पास माना जाएगा. अगेन, फॉर पेमेंट एम्प्लॉयर शैल बी एंटाइटल्ड subject to clause claims for payment and or EOT to payment of these performance damages by contractor in full satisfaction of this failure. If contractor pays these performance damages to employer during DNP, works or section shall be deemed to have passed these tests after completion. If works or section fail to pass, if work or section fail to pass test after completion, and by giving a notice to employer, contractor proposes to make adjustments or modifications to works of such section, including an item of plant. Contractor may be instructed by notice given by employer that the right of access to works or section cannot be given until a time that is convenient to employer, which time shall be reasonable. Contractor may be instructed by a notice given by employer that right of access to works or section cannot be given until a time that is convenient to employer, which time shall be reasonable. Contractor shall remain liable to carry out adjustments or modifications and to satisfy this test within a reasonable period of receiving a notice under subparagraph as above. 1. If contractor does not receive a notice under subparagraph above during relevant DNP, contractor shall be relieved of obligation to make such adjustments or modifications, and works or section shall be deemed to have passed this test after completion. Contractor may be instructed. See, we read it again because number one is contractor may be instructed by notice given by employer that right of access to works or section cannot be given until a time that is convenient to employer, which time shall be reasonable. Contractor shall remain liable to carry out adjustments or modifications and to satisfy this test within a reasonable period of receiving notice under subparagraph above. If contractor does not receive a notice under subparagraph 1 above during recent DNP, contractor shall be relieved of obligation to make such adjustments or modifications, and works or section shall be deemed to have passed test after completion. If contractor incurs additional cost. If contractor incurs additional cost as a result of whatever unreasonable delay by employer in permitting access to works or section by contractor, either to investigate the causes of failure or failure to pass a test after completion, or to carry out whatever adjustments or modifications, contractor shall be entitled, subject to claims for payment or EOT, to payment of whatever such cost plus profit. बहुत complication testing में complicated losses, but explanatory one, which shall help everybody understand all this. Because taking over and handing over is not enough if process does not perform, if plant does not perform, if vessels and equipment don't perform, or you can say if tests are failed. Failure of testing means failure of whole system. That's why amendment or modifications, which if required must be done. Hence, in interest of both parties to contract, employer and contractor, ultimately both are responsible for this project. Maybe contractor is fully responsible for purpose of technicalities, for purpose of designs, engineering, whereas employer is responsible to facilitate contractor financially, morally, and that's why it said that contractor is responsible for purpose of testing and passing test. There can be no way the test can be passed if every supplies, every material, every delivery has been done according to meeting contractor requirements, contracts requirements, specification requirement. There can be no way out. If specifications are right, say, if designs are right, say, then work should be right. But if there is difficulty or there is a problem in design or there is a problem in specifications compliance, we can say that you can't be sure about meeting requirements. In that case, we find such problems of we find some problems of testing failure. But if it's possible to amend deliveries or to make certain alterations so that these deliveries stand perfect for working according to specifications requirements. It's no joke. We are not talking imagination, we are talking facts. Everywhere professionals work, even designs or in production, manufacturing and testing, non-professionals do not work. It is only professionals that work there, and that is important. It's really important. We have to understand that point. We have to understand this fact as well, that importance and value of professionals, they should do care. We cannot simply say I'm professional but I don't care for work. Why should that fail? That's why I stress on quality of systems, quality of materials, quality of procedures, quality of performance, quality of working, quality in each and every activity, in designs processes, in construction, in manufacturing, even in testing. Everything is available as far as information is concerned. We cannot deny this fact. Every information is available. If somebody says there is no information, I don't accept that fact. Yes, information to an extent. Working is done, it's available. And that's enough as far as we can say we complied with requirements. Requirements are defined. And requirements are not defined imaginarily. Requirements are defined based on whatever can be done, whatever materials are available, whatever information we get through these, we can say, vendors, pertinent materials or machinery that we use in contracts, specifications, because it's propriety of system, its design of system. Those people who are in manufacturing units or in production, they know much better than, because they design processes and materials. You can do a kind of research or search work on specifications. We cannot say that these industrial records, industrial specifications, pertinent materials, pertinent machines, equipment, or vessels, these are extracted from industrial books or from educational books. Actually, these technicalities arrive from industries, from successful performance of machines and product, and those are included in specifications of projects. We cannot simply write anything using our mind that you get it. It's patent, it's design, it's propriety that play a role. That's why we often call them proprietary items. items which property is produced by certain organization, certain designer, certain manufacturing unit, and those are taken care of. So there are rare chances that those specifications included on contracts are different than whatever can be produced. Of course, there can be variance, but production quality, production properties, production parameters should be same or in alliance. It's very simple in a sense that industrial incorporation, while devising contract technical specifications, is very important. I've seen I've seen designers or consultants who draw specifications. They mostly remain in contact with high-profile manufacturers, high-profile industrial units for getting information, and they get their information, and certainly those units, those owners of whatever material or manufacturing, they know this time or some other time that document would come to us for quotation purpose, and our specifications or somebody else's specifications shall be used. And that's why you can say specifications weigh much more than conditions of contract. In a way, work is done. I'm not saying in letter of propriety and letter of procedures. I'm not saying about claims, but about what is to be tested. Tested is technical matter, it's not a claim matter. And test is done according to what codes say, but also what manufacturer says. And generally, codes are respected by every manufacturer, every professional company, every professional industrial unit. They do not work beyond provisions of contract. Yes, they may work on better side, but not on deficit side. And that's why, it's called good industrial practice, and we have to rely on those specifications because we are not generating any specifications. That's the reason that 2 or 3 industrial units are concerned, and we get information from them that is suitable for those who use this information. They have to be very careful that if you think that this information is obsolete, then they can raise a question that this information is obsolete because this material is not available, this machine is out of production, so we offer an alternative to this. That can be done. And if it's real case means that material is not available, alternative will be accepted. We have to understand these points in a clear fashion. That's why I stressed on testing a lot. And it's not simply that we have to stick to quality, but we have to think that quality can never be compromised, can never be and must not be compromised by engineers and public. I am including both. Quality can never be and must not be compromised by engineers and public. Because quality is part of life. If someone thinks that one can do without quality consideration, I think that engineer does not do engineering. That engineer does not respect engineering. That engineer is a burden on society as far as engineering is concerned. Simply saying that. I usually keep this document modifying every time because this is an important document. Particularly added this quality can never be and must not be compromised by engineers in public, because engineer can convert a forest or a desert to a city or an industrial town, for which quality and safety, health and environment play integrated and merged vital roles in all respects. Engineers are problem solvers. We have to understand that point. Engineers are problem solvers. And engineers are developers, and engineers are agents of change. And that's why I say it said that engineering means, you can say that, being a must. What is that? It is quality requirements, checks, being a must. Missing which we have to blame ourselves for quality achievement failure. Engineering means quality application and continuous improvement of quality CIQ. No way exists not to comply with defined or specified quality labels, because definition of quality is a must. And that definition requires to be achieved, or else work leads to status of being unsuccessful and to be reperformed. Engineers are problem solvers, and engineers are developers, and engineers are agents of change. So that is that we must change to meet requirements to achieve intended quality standards for universal cognition of products or goods. Non-conformance means engineer is either careless or ignorant or incompetent one, and therefore is a redundant personnel. And quality non-conformance product is called substandard, therefore rejected, because it is against engineering and source nature. It is against engineering and source nature, for natural materials are wasted without any optimum gains. And therefore I can say applications must be affected. Designs and prosecution works. Applications must be affected. Engineering and engineering business. Quality non-conformance product is called substandard and therefore rejected. Thinking waste contamination must be achieved. So this is just something, we can say that we tried to express ourselves in a mode that is a must for expression, and really it is important from every point of view. It should be, because it's engineering, it's not my or your choice. We have to talk of variations and adjustments. The contracts continues like that. Important material was testing, and many important points have already been covered, but not in details, but at least informatively we have covered a lot. And though it's no end, because it is EPC, and in EPC there are many more issues included than only construction one. This silver book, there may be variations and adjustments. That's an important point. There may be other points also. Likewise, we can see value engineering, which is very important aspect in engineering, because we have to add value to engineering. That's why it's value engineering. Value has been added, value which was not expected, value which is not a part of contract, but we add that for benefit of work, not benefit of employer, benefit of society. And also variation procedure. What's variation procedure? We have to take into consideration. And then there shall be, I'm just showing further one, provisional sums. What means the meaning of provisional sum? That we understand provisional sums, and also day work. I explained before also what meaning of day work, but it's very important for everybody. In some cases, people want the solutions. I remember this as one time, that solutions are not available sometimes. Adjustment for changes in law. sums. Right to vary. Vary means what? Whatever is specified or what is given, just change little one and vary in for that. Based on that rules means it doesn't mean that it's going to impact on contract, it's going to impact quality system. It's a financial issue and these variations and adjustments is called variation adjustments is something different. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में बहुत कुछ ऊपर नीचे हो सकता है, क्योंकि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में हो सकता है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के टाइम सब कुछ क्लियर ना रहा हो और बहुत सारे हाथ लगते हैं जब कोई चीज़ में इतना काम करना पड़ता है. खाली कह देना हमने कुछ कोड साथ में लगा दिए, कुछ हमने इंफॉर्मेशन दे दी, हमारा काम पूरा हो गया, ये ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, वेरिएशन तो आएंगी, कभी काम कम होगा, कभी ज़्यादा होगा, कुछ चेंजेस होंगे, कुछ काम ओमिशन में जाएगा, कुछ एडिशन में आएगा, बहुत कुछ होता है. उस टाइम जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बना होगा बहुत कुछ क्लियर नहीं रहा होगा, मैं सोचा होगा अभी 2 साल है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चलने में, 3 साल लगेंगे, तो हम देखेंगे आगे क्या वेरी करना है क्या नहीं करना है. There's so many issues involved, design is involved, items are involved, work is involved, quantity is involved, scope is involved, specifications are involved, materials are involved, propriety is involved, so much is involved. So we have to take care of that also. That's why variations play its role. Variations and adjustments are very important points here that cannot be taken for granted, that must be cared for. And that's why it's a very serious issue to talk of variations. And it's not just because we are happy to discuss, but it should be taken seriously. It's a serious matter, should be taken seriously, and we'll take care of this also, because once we start we have to enter into many complications, many issues, and therefore it is contract. In fact, what we have gone so far, we just can see we have gone so far into this feed, into this we have gone to, if you say general conditions, we have gone to general provisions in which we studied definitions, interpretation, notices and other communications, law and language, variety of documents, contract agreement, assignment, care and supply of documents, employer's use of contractor's documents, contractor's use of employer's documents, confidentiality, compliance with laws, joints and several liability, limitation of liability, contract termination. And in employer we studied right of access to site, assistance, employer's personal and other contractors, employer's initial arrangement, site data and items of reference, and employer supplied materials and employer's equipment. Employer's administration, we studied employer's representative, other employers, personal, delegated persons, instructions, agreement or determination, meetings, and also in contractor, you can say, we studied contractors' general obligations, performance security, contractors representative, subcontractors, nominated subcontractors, cooperation, setting out health and safety applications, quality management and compliance verification systems, use of site data, sufficiency of contract price, unforeseeable difficulties, rights of way and facilities, avoidance of interference, access routes, transport of goods, contractors' equipment, protection of environment, temporary utilities, progress reports, security of site, contracts operations on site, archaeological and geological findings, and in designs we did general designs obligations, contractors documents, contractors undertaking, technical standards and regulations, training, as-built records, operations and maintenance manuals, design errors. We also studied about issue of designs, in which we studied, what did we do? We said staff and workers, engagement of staff and workers, rates of wages and conditions of workers, recruitment of persons, workers law, labor law, working hours, facilities for staff and workers, health and safety personnel, contractors, superintendents, contractors personnel, contracts records, disorderly conduct, key personnel, and also plant, material and workmanship, manner of execution, samples, inspection, testing by contractor, defects and rejection, remedial work, ownership of plant and material, royalties, commencement delays and suspension. We studied commencement of works, time for completion, program, advance warning, extension of time for completion, delays caused by authorities, rate of progress, delay damages, employer suspension, consequences of employer suspension, payment for plant and materials after employer suspension, prolonged suspension, resumption of works. Then tests on completion, contractors' obligations, delayed tests, retesting, failure to pass tests on completion when employers is taking over works and section, taking over parts of works, interference with tests on completion and defects after taking over, completion of outstanding work and remedying defects, cost of remedying defects, extension of defects, notification period, failure to remedy defects, remedying of defects, defective work of site, further tests after remedying defects, right to access after taking over, contractor to search, performance certificate, unfulfilled obligations, clearance of site, tests after completion, procedure for tests after completion, delayed tests, retesting, failure to pass tests after completion. Up to these 12 chapters, up to these 12 clauses or articles, you can say we have gone through superficially, without certain examples, without certain references, and we have then 13 variation adjustments to go. Contract price payment we have to study. Then we have to study termination by employer, suspension and termination by contractor, care of works and indemnities, exceptional events, or we can call force majeure, insurance, employer and contractor's claim, disputes and arbitration. And there is another appendix, that is general conditions of dispute avoidance adjudication agreement. This is what we have gone through, and I think we have covered something only, not everything of contracts, because contract is a wide world, it's a spectrum, and we have to care about this. And we should not forget, everything is not that easy it looks. It's just beginning to understand something. When we go into depth, when we enter into depth of practical applications of this, I think it's too big. We have to work on sites, we have to work in projects and designs, and every day is different, experience. Again I say, communication, as I said in title, all time I say, it's very important that we have to be reasonably well understandable. Since these terms in titles I say, that is civil field engineering and engineers quality rules, roles, and these contract books are only guidance. It is in the hands of individuals, it is hands of engineers, it's in hands of every worker, it's in hands of every industrialist, every manufacturer, every contractor to think of quality. Until everybody thinks, clashes cannot be avoided. Some people have got wrong conception that if you produce quality, you have to spend more on that. That's completely fake understanding. You are going to spend more money if you do not produce quality. Not only you are going to lose money, you are going to loosen your reputation, your market, you are going to lose your character, your efficiency. One time, you can say, second time, third time, maybe first time, second time, people can trust you because of your already existing reputational level, but they shall not trust you forever. Remember, sometimes I think a smallest vendors who has no organization can work better than 5-star company. I think so. It happens. Big names never mean good products. This is my understanding, my experience-based understanding. I cannot go behind. I experienced that because of mistakes. I thought this company is very reputed, but once you use their products, you find that it's nonsense. I talked to some person working for some company. Why your product I bought You did not even work for a week. And it happens that again it is broken. What's meaning of your company? I'm sorry. Information I received from him that it's not fault of company, it's fault of company organization. It is outsourcing that is at fault. So we have to be very careful. Means it's not only that we have to be careful. Everyone has to be careful about this. It's not issue of what we say. It's issue of what's required, and it's a very important one. What's required should be done, and what's required should be done. That's all. We have to see about this. Think of this all the time, and we have to see this very clearly. What happens should happen. What of Engineers India? That is, you can say. I think this is Institution of Engineers India, and is incorporated by Royal Charter 1935, about which I've shown you that clarification from AGI in 1958, and it is that you can see this my Materials Engineers Suraj_engineer@yahoo.co.uk. You can make use of this. You should write some question to me. I'm happy to answer that. And it's my certification here, as I showed you before. So it's no use, but just to let you remind. And I also say thinking and concentration, certain powers achieve everything. Keep on thinking. No limit. It doesn't cost anything. Thinking and concentration do not cause anything except to take food and think. And that thinking and concentration can become certain powers that can achieve everything. And that is very important part, thinking and concentration, certain powers to achieve everything. So I take your leave now.